Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing well. Welcome to this new lecture of the Uncensored series. Here we are on the 15-minute chart of Nasdaq, and what I want you to see is how we just took out the London low right here. I shared this level within the market updates channel to be a level to hold on your charts to see how we would react of that. What we're seeing right now is that we traded into the level at 949, and we saw this down close candle right here drop lower aggressively. Next candle opens up, forms a low, immediately reprices towards the upside. What I'm monitoring to see is whether or not we're going to see bullish order flow step in soon. We have now formed a high inside of this CB here, as you can see. So if we extend that CB to the right and we see the market displays above that CB, find support inside of this upclose candle, then it will be a buy for me, and then I anticipate us to draw towards the buy side liquidity here. The reason why I would anticipate that is due to the following. What we saw was that at 8:30 the news was utilized to reprice towards the upside. We then saw a sell-off taking place, but notice that this sell-off was very slow with a lot of back and forth going. 9:30 comes along and immediately slams Nasdaq lower. That right there is a signature to me that we might manipulate towards the downside as we speak, and that we are going to engineer more buy side liquidity above all of these highs, which we can attack at a later point in time. Midnight opening price is on my chart right here. And what I'm monitoring is whether or not S&P is going to take place with ES. There's a cracking correlation on the lows here, so this could already begin to push higher with. Let me just annotate the SMR time. Oh, 9:49. All right. Can go into the 15-second chart because I want to show you something. Remember, this is where that SMT was confirmed, so this was already a buying opportunity here inside of this BC. Now we'll be monitoring to see if we're going to inverse this CB, because if we will inverse this CB, that's again an opportunity to already get long. But let's just stay on the 1-minute chart for now. The reason why I want to stay on the 1-minute chart is because I want to see displacement above this CB occur. We need to keep in mind as well that we're range bound inside of the range which formed yesterday, so yesterday's range, and therefore I have equilibrium of that range, 50% of that range on my charts as well. That's this black line. Notice how we traded around that price level for a rather long time and how the wicks kept on rejecting it once we closed aggressively below it. Very curious to see how this candle is going to deliver. If we zoom into the 15-second chart, you can see that we're now displacing above this CB, so it means the retracement into this candle's high is going to be a buying opportunity. Notice that we see a bullish breaker formation where we see a high form here with this upclose candle inside of this CB. If we now also begin to see the following, where we see the market form a BC, then I love that. Perfect. I just got entered a bit too high, but it doesn't matter. Going to place my stop at the low of that CB right here. I did not want to see the market trade below that low anymore. I now want to see a buy program unfold, meaning I want to see big green candles taking place. Notice on the 1-minute chart, this is immediate rebalance. So let me just annotate that. And here comes a gem for you. Immediate rebalance is just a balanced price range on the lower time frames. I'm going to take one partial around the 9:30 opening. Why? Because, like I mentioned, we are stuck inside of yesterday's range, so I need to really be careful when it comes to holding on maybe for that news high, which we will see. I anticipate big green candles to come soon. Notice that 10 o'clock. Oh, that's orange. Let me make it green. Notice that the 10 o'clock open is upon us, so I anticipate that we're going to see an expansion towards the upside taking place. The reason why I anticipate big green candles to come is due to the following. I outlined my narrative to you. I outlined why I'm anticipating higher prices on Nasdaq. But what confirms this to me is the fact that we're seeing the algorithmic signatures that I'm looking for taking place on the lower time frames. Don't be scared by this 10 o'clock open here. We have news. Notice that we reprice into the inverse value gap, and I'm monitoring to see how we're going to react off that. I do not want to see the market displace below that. I'm a fan of the fact that we first opened up and manipulated towards the downside. That's a good sign. It was medium impact news, but that wick right there was kind of, I wouldn't say surprising, but I did anticipate such a big candle to form. All right, I'm going to take one contract off at the 9:30 opening price as I outlined. So I'm waiting for that to get reached. In the meantime, I'm also paying attention. There it gets reached. In the meantime, I'm also paying attention to what ES is doing on the side. I have different screens, and what I can see is that ES is already trading inside of this candle's wick. So that's something to be aware of. Since the first partial has been taken, I'm now going to trill my stop. Monitoring to see how we're going to react off this 9:30 opening. At this point, I never want to see the market displace towards the downside anymore. It should begin to run very soon. Okay, at this point, we can see that ES has taken out the news high, whilst Nasdaq does not, and that's a form of SMT. So I'm going to be completely open-minded at this stage. I'm okay with the fact that it might roll over against my position. If that occurs, I'm all good with that. Notice that we have this CB here. If that fails to function as an inverse value gap, that's the first sign that order flow might be changing. Notice that we also have this very tiny BC here, so monitor that. Remember, this black line is equilibrium of the previous day range. So it should be pretty clear to you at this stage what we're looking for. If we would now see displacement towards the downside, that completely invalidates the idea, because like I mentioned, ES is already trading above the news high, whilst Nasdaq is not. This upgoes candle is a bullish breaker. Why? Because we formed a low, high, lower low, so this upgoes candle has to function as support on price. Notice that this lines up with around CE of this news wick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stop just a few points lower, because I do not want to get caught up in the fact that the market might want to gravitate all the way into the low of that bullish breaker, tap that and then reject it and then take me out. But at this point, I don't really care. Like I mentioned, good partial, good recognition of a good partial area, and that's what you always need to keep in mind. Like the thing is, you could have easily thought, well, you know, if I held on to the position, then I might have made more profits and I might have been able to get X amount of money from that position. Yes, that's what some of you think when you see the market just reach a level like the 930 opening and you think, well, now it should begin to expand. But what occurs? You see the rejection and you think to yourself, well, you know what? Maybe it can draw to this level, maybe it can draw to that level and still be bullish. Well, what just happened here is absolutely not bullish, like I outlined. The warning signs were present. There were signs present that signaled to us that we might not want to continue higher, trying towards this high because of that SMT with ES. And that's why you need to pay attention to intermarket relationship whilst you're in positions. And if you have multiple screens, I highly suggest you to have one screen just for intermarket relationship, meaning that you pay attention to Nasdaq, ES, Dow Jones, and the dollar if you want to. Now, some of you might think, okay, what now? Well, what now is that I will wait because I'm not a fan of this delivery. We might begin to draw towards this low now and actually draw deeper below the 100 low. If that occurs, okay, then this was a fractal market maker sell model. If you take a look on the 15-second chart, you can see an original consolidation here, buy side of the curve, and then we see the sell side of the curve right here. 10 o'clock news, manipulate firstly towards the downside like we saw, and then towards the upside within a higher frame, and we form a high SMT with ES above the 930 opening price relative to news liquidity, boom, slam lower. And that is where we see a sell program unfold. Market displaces through this beast right here on the 15-second chart. Notice that the small CB forms, market retraces into that, slams lower, immediate rebounds, slams lower. Notice that old inverse value gap price range, a CB displaces through that, market finds resistance in that, and there it goes. Now notice that we're forming again relatively equal lows here, but we did not take out this low. That's something of interest, but it doesn't mean that I will go long or anything like that. I'm just going to wait and see, and this could easily just chop around. With that, this lecture of the Uncensored series comes to an end. This was probably the shortest one, but I hope that you found it insightful and that you learned something from it, especially when it comes to the overall management of that position. And I hope that it has provided some insight for you when it comes to the overall idea of how should I trail my stops, because that's something a lot of people are confused with. Now, that's an interesting reaction right there before we end this to the price level of that immediate rebalance, the level that I had annotated. Notice that that immediate rebalance was something on the 15-second chart, like I outlined. The fact that we're seeing such a reaction of that level right there shows the importance of those very specific levels. Now, what is interesting to note is the fact that if we're in fact going to draw lower, this would be beautiful algorithmic price delivery, meaning that would signal that right now there's only one objective in mind, lower prices. And that's what we're seeing here. Here, that market maker sell model is complete on the 15-second chart. And we can see the market expand towards the downside. This right here is an algorithmic signature to investigate, because what I showed to you on the 50-second chart, what was actually the high of this candle, is actually a range that you should extend to the right, because that of course can function as an inversion, as I've been teaching you lately. So I hope that this lecture was insightful to you. I hope that you learned something from it, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next one. Be safe.